Okay, so we've started work on the interior. So as we can see, we've used some plastic card, we've used some plastic rod, a couple of bits of 1/72 scale stowage, sort of blanket rolls and that sort of stuff. And I think we're pretty much, I've drilled out that screen there. That's going to be enough with the addition of some harnesses on the seats, which I'll do using masking tape. And then they're the 3 crew figures that I will put in the interior. So yeah, we've also used some carbon fiber rod there, some control levers and that sort of thing. It's all white tacked in currently, just so I can test and adjust as we go. And the cab actually fits on top like so. And then you can see that center console there will fit. Obviously it's not fixed in place currently, and then you're going to be able to see some of the crew members, etc., through the windows. So I think for the interior, I'm pretty much happy with that. I'm kind of where I want it to be with the addition of the harnesses, etc. Once it's all painted up, I think it will look quite effective, and certainly an improvement on what the kit provides. Is it accurate? Absolutely not. It's completely inaccurate. But I never intended for it to be 100% accurate. It was just sort of a representation more than anything else. He's fell over. Stormy seas. But yeah, so I'm quite happy with that. Once it's all painted up, etc. Now what I needed to do was have some sort of control panels, screens, etc. So going through the spare decals, and I've got all these kind of spare cockpit screens and all that sort of stuff. So once this is painted, I think, you know, once we start to add these in, and you can cut these down to size, so we've got dials and all that sort of stuff, cut them down to size, and I think it will give a good representation of some screens and all that sort of stuff. So essentially in the interior there, we've got 5 screens sort of in the seat backs, as you can see. So what I intend to do really is have these screens where there's no one sat there, these sort of in the off mode, standby mode, and then the 2 screens at the front is have those sort of operational, if you like. And I'll figure out how I'm going to do that, and give a representation of the interior of the lifeboat, and then we'll put some dials and everything on the center console and get that looking a bit more interesting than it does currently. So I'm going to paint that up. I'm going to glue it all into place properly, add the harnesses, and as I say, I'll be using tape. So I'm using this is 1mm Azu tape. So I'll paint that up. From reference pictures, they're blue, the harnesses, so I'll paint these up and then add them to the seats, so that we kind of get that look, and then we'll see what it looks like once that's done. And then our attention will turn to the cab really then, because we need to get the cab and the windows and everything in place before we start adding the deck to the hull really. So yeah, that's what I'm going to do. So I'll be back in a second, and we'll see what this interior looks like. See you in a minute. Okay folks, so we saw it in its sort of raw state, if you like, and now what I've done is I've added some colour, some paint, we're painting some of the figures, etc. So the interior itself then, so I've used some spare decals to create some screens, dials and all that sort of stuff. The other screens I've painted in sort of a silver metallic colour, and then some Tamiya clear over the top. We've then added some sort of stowage, so these sort of bags at the sides. These are obviously plastic hard. We drilled this screen out here, and these figures we've added. Obviously the floor of the interior is this sort of black dark grey colour, and the deck's going to be this sort of light grey colour that we can see here. So we've kind of gone in a rough shape, but I think we've definitely improved the interior. We've added some wiring detail here into the rear of the instrument panel, and I think we've definitely improved the look of it. We've also added the seat harnesses from 1mm tape, and I think it looks way better than it did. As I said, this is not accurate, but it's a representation of an interior of a Shannon class. What I've also done on the decal there, although it's all been flat coated, you can see slight sort of shine on that screen on the decal, and we've used Deluxe materials, looks like glass on that. So that's it. So essentially, I think the way to go is to fit the cab prior to fitting the deck to the hull. I think that's the way to go. So what we can see here is we're going to glue and clamp this, but we're going to end up with some slight gaps around the base of the cab. So we need to address that. So what I have done is I've cut off the locating tabs in the center, and we've just left the front and rear. I haven't attached the rear of the cab yet because I need to put the glazing in, etc. So we're going to tackle that next, the glazing really, because there are issues with the glazing. So what I'm going to do is cut that almost into individual pieces to make it easier and to get the fit better. But we'll use the front locating tab there, and then what we'll do is clamp this down to try and get rid of any sort of gaps, etc. We have a slight gap there already, and we'll probably make use of some Mr. Surfacer to deal with that. And then we'll kind of tack weld it with extra thin, test and adjust, get it into place to obviously minimize any sort of gaps, and see how we get on with that. But as for the interior of the cab, we're there, we're done. And I think, as you can see, once the cab's on, as I said, I did toy with the idea of lighting this, but I'm not going to. But we will be able to see certain bits, and it just gives it a bit more detail and a bit more interest. So there we go. That's the interior done. So in the next video, we'll look at obviously the cab and how we're going to do this, painting the interior of the cab, etc., etc. Fitting the glazing. I'll be using Outlaw paints, the Outlaw paint set. So the actual colour of the cab will be this one, which is light orange from Outlaw paints, which has been made specifically for the Lifeboat. So I have had a bit of a test spray on some pieces of the cab. So this is actually going to be the rear, or part of the rear of the cab. So what I did is I drilled out those panels in the door. We've then sprayed the light orange and then a coat of Tamiya LP9 on the top. I've used some spare decals, created a screen there doing the same way with silver and Tamiya clear, and then some spare decals on that console there. We still need to add the steering wheel, and then essentially this obviously is mounted currently for spraying, but this will all start to sort of fit together, and we've used some Tamiya dark brown accent color just to pick out some of the details, and we'll start putting that together. We're not going to heavily weather this. If you look at reference pictures, these are very, very clean. They're kept in very, very good condition, so we're not going to weather it to death, certainly, but we are going to pick out the detail with the orange and stuff, and dark brown is a good color to do that, to give it a bit more visual interest. And as I say, we've drilled out the door panels at the rear, added some clear plastic card to create some windows. So that's what we're going to do, and that's the paint we're going to be using to do that. This paint is phenomenal, and this color is spot on really to my eye for the RNLI, and I've sprayed it directly onto the plastic. I've not used any primer. If I remove that, you can see there the grey plastic, and you can see how well this coverage is Obviously that still needs cleaning up, but you can see how good this paint is, and that's what we're going to be using for the entirety of the cab. Really, it looks a little bit dull on camera, but I can assure you it's a bit brighter, and to my eye it looks bang on for the orange that we need, and sprays like a dream, really. So we'll get working on this, we'll get working on the glazing, get all this together and get it clamped to the deck, and then give it time to set and dry before we start adding all the other bits, all the railings, antennas and all that sort of stuff. I'm not sure yet whether I'm going to fit the deck to the hull before I do all the antennas and stuff. I probably will, because they're likely to break off. So at least once it's on the hull, we've got something to hold, some purchase. Yeah, but we're getting there, and I'm really pleased with how that interior has kind of turned out. I think it's kind of brought it to life a little bit. So let me know what you think in the comments, and until next time, stay safe, happy hobbying, bye bye.